All right, we're talking players we're not quitting just yet, and we play a game of true false. Campus to Canton is live right now. It's Felix Sharpe, Chris Kay, and Matt Bruening for CampusToCanton.com. I hope you like what we're doing, trying to grow the great game of college fantasy football and bring it to the mainstream. It's a goal of mine. It's a goal of these gentlemen on my left. I think we got a good show here today. If you want to do to help us on that mission, there's a couple of things you can do. You can check out the website. You can help get this video to what? Let's say 20 likes on this video for Campus to Canton Live. And Matt, do we have Matt, we didn't do this last time. I didn't throw to the advertisement appropriate.
The like thing? No, we did not.
Okay. Do you want to? So how about? Can you cut to it now? Can you cut? Okay, or not? This is live. You tell. We should have talked about this beforehand. Just interrupt me with the advertisement at any time. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. Okay. All right. Okay. You can check out the website. You can use the promo code Campus2Canton for 15% off at Home Field Apparel. That would really help us out. Anyway. All right. We've got a couple of things on the agenda today, boys. We're going to play a game of true or false. We're going to talk about some players that we're not quitting just yet. But before we get to that, I want to recap and talk about this story that Chris Hummer from 247/CBS published last week about Miami of Ohio. And according to Hummer, there were multiple teams that reached out to CBS to inquire about what Miami's war chest was looking like as far as budget for the transfer portal. The reason being is it appears that Miami of Ohio was actually beating some Power 4 schools in the transfer portal, which was different from the years prior. The article has quotes from Coach Martin. The article has quotes from Dave Saylor, who's the AD there at Miami of Ohio. I thought it was interesting for a number of reasons. One, because I talk about the difference between last year and this year, and the difference in the budget range from this year and last year. That was from $40,000 a year ago to an estimated between $8 and $10 million this year. That is a big jump for a G5 team. The other thing I thought was interesting is the fact that they're not hiding this at all. They're not hiding this at all. They're talking about it. And again, the coach and AD were quoted about it. Chris, what's your immediate reaction to the fact that Miami of Ohio looks to be all in, not only in basketball where they're undefeated, but here for the 2026 season, they might be all in from a football perspective in a way we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, is this real? Like, they're right. I had to double read it. I was like, wait, Miami, Ohio? But I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, if you're a MAC school that invests in that type of money, I mean, you have to have a serious leg up in competition. And then the next thing I'm thinking is who actually, this is why I'm looking to the left. I'm like, who actually did they bring in to be on the team? I will say I don't recognize a lot of these names, but they're coming from huge programs, right? You got a lot of Ohio States, Notre Dame, Northwestern, Purdue, Arizona, Iowa State. So like, these are big programs that these guys are transferring from. Maybe something to think about when we're looking at win totals in the offseason later on, and maybe maybe offenses later on that we're thinking that could be really positive, really beneficial for our fantasy teams. Because they're going to outmatch the rest of everybody, right? With talent, getting all.
Well, at least with it sounds they're going to try to. They're at least going to do it with budget. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a good sense for what G5 teams would be throwing a lot of money out there. I think Boise State would be one. Boise State is traditionally one of the better G5 teams. North Texas was great last year, but I can't really think of another team that would be on that, wherever Billy Napier is, they probably should be able to get some money, whether he's at, Louisiana or now JMU. I feel like Billy Napier should be able to drum up some budget. But do you have any problem with what it is they're doing? I mean, or do you feel like this is good for the game?
I think this is great. I think G5 teams should lean into it more, right? This is like Texas Tech of the G5. Texas Tech has said, you know what, like, we don't have any issue with people knowing this. We're throwing money at players. And they do it in all sports. They do it in softball. They've done it in basketball. I think they just want to be an all-around athletic powerhouse. And I think, hey, who cares? Like, go for it. And if you had to guess, how much money do you think MAC teams as a whole are spending it combined?
Before this article,
10 million?
I would have thought it was less than $1 million. It would not be 7 figures.
It would be $1 million per, right? I mean,
Right.
10 million to me as a whole conference would probably be what I'm thinking. And they're about to do that themselves, reportedly. So I think that's pretty remarkable. And I'm curious, what alumni, who's doing this? Who's funding this? I'm curious.
So so it's an interesting discussion because it's outlined in the article how they're raising this money, and it's essentially matching. If they get a match from if they get a donation from a donor, both the school and the football program match it, I believe. So essentially it 3X's whatever has been donated. So that's actually not a lot for 10 million. They got $3 million worth of donations.
That's big for MAC though, $3 million.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I originally thought that this let's say it's 10 million, this 10 million came from donors. I'm like, I can't think of how many people are you got donating to this program. But if it's 3 million in the school and the football program,
or doing the rest,
that's a much smaller number.
A little bit easier to grasp for sure.
Yeah.
This was a good team last year, relatively, to the MAC. I think they finished maybe second or third in the MAC. They had 7 wins. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if it plays out as positively as they hope. I mean, you start funding like that, you hope you get results, or else, they could go right back to 100K or something like that next year if the next season, if it doesn't work out.
Do you have the list of players in front of you? I'm trying to bring it up and I'm having trouble.
I have the 2026 portal from 24/7. I'm telling you, I don't recognize any of them.
All right. Well, but we should at least say who these names are, and so we can figure out is it going to work? So
So I do recognize Cade Yakimelli, the Wisconsin running back, transferred over.
I like Cade Yakimelli, former wide receiver. He was a tweener.
And then Rodney Nelson's another running back. He's kind of more of a scat back. And then Demarion Witten, receiver from Ohio State. You recognize that one? He's like he's 0.89 on their little board. Devin Hyatt, the transfer from Arizona. I remember the name, but he never did much at Arizona.
All right, I was able to pull it up. So, okay, 3-star quarterback David McComb. These are a lot of drop downs. 3-star quarterback David McComb transfers from Kansas State to Miami. Cade Yakimelli. I think I've talked about Cade Yakimelli on this show before because I did like him at one point. You mentioned 3-star Cade Yakimelli, 3-star Rodney Nelson is headed there. David Hyatt, the wide receiver. I wonder if he's related to Jalen Hyatt. David Hyatt, the wide receiver, a 3-star going from Arizona to Miami. I didn't realize Cordell Russell was with Miami last year. He transfers out, to I don't know. Is that Stephen Austin? SFA?
Stephen F. Austin.
Stephen. 3-star Demarion Witten, the wide receiver, goes from Ohio State to Miami. Evan McClure from NYU, from Northern Illinois to Miami, transfers within the conference. And then some other offensive linemen. 3-star from Duquesne. It has to be from Duquesne to Miami. From I don't even know this. Some of these Devontae Armstrong from Ohio State to Miami. Some of these schools I don't even know the logos off the top of my head. And then defensive linemen. They've got some defensive linemen. Again, 3-stars. I mean, it's for a MAC school. They got a class of 15 for all of those guys to be 3-stars. That's not a small thing. I mean, at the very least, I think it's good for college football, and it will give you a team to let's see if they run through the MAC this year, if the money allows them to run through the MAC.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I don't have any issue with it. I think these G5 teams should, go back a little bit towards the days of like the pride in the conference and winning it and things like that. I think teams should continue to do that, right? If 8 million wins them the MAC and they go to a bowl game and everybody's happy, why not? I don't have any issue with that. And maybe they surprise some people and win a non-conference game against a Rutgers or something like that. That would be cool to see.
I want to see Miami of Ohio's schedule real quick. This is why I need to prepare a little bit more. All right, so Miami of Ohio, the only games that they have official on the calendar right now are September 5th against Pittsburgh, September 19th against Cincinnati, and September 26th against UConn. You, after reading this article, you taking – there's still going to be an underdog. You taking Miami of Ohio against either Pitt or Cincinnati?
No, but UConn maybe. I mean, UConn's got a fresh team with new staff. That could happen. They got Holy Cross, it looks like, on September 12th as well. That one obviously is very winnable as a FCS opponent there.
Okay, well, let us know in the chat if you are buying what Miami is doing here in 2026, trying to buy some victories, trying to bring some talent to their team. We lost Matthew. We'll bring him back here soon. The bulk of this show, we want to talk about players that we are not quitting. Chris, you took one of mine, the running back out west. Can you start with that one?
Wayman Jordan, USC. I did a little bit of a cheating, right? Like, he was great last year. I think technically he probably underperformed based off of where he's being drafted, but I can't quit him, and that I'm very, very happily going to be drafting him high in drafts. I mean, 6.5 yards per carry. He played basically 5.5 games. He got hurt at the halftime of that Michigan game. I don't know. He had some fumbling issues. I remember that, and maybe that hinders him a little bit from being the true bell cow. But I think from a talent and skill perspective, it looked like he was right on par. I think everybody nailed it. Everybody was like, this guy was a stud at JUCO. This guy's going to be awesome in the USC offense. And he largely was, and then got injured. Helps the system is the system. But yeah, I will have a lot of Wayman Jordan, especially on underdog drafts come draft season.
He was a guy in December that I identified when I'm trying to update rankings and say, all right, this guy's coming out of JUCO. It looks like he's decent. I advocated to add him to the rankings in December, was shot down. I think now he's a consensus top 15 running back, regardless of format. If you're talking CFF, if you're talking C2C, even in C2C, the running back position is watered down. So Wayman Jordan, even with the injury, even with King Miller sharing the backfield with him down there, I think he's a top 15 running back. Matthew, you're back now.
I am
frustrated. What are your thoughts on Wayman Jordan?
Only slightly. Wayman Jordan, great USC running back.
So
you know
Matthew,
what else is great about
Wayman
USC?
Jordan is a running back from USC, and Chris just talked about him. Now I'm throwing it to you. Go ahead.
I thought I heard that correctly. I honestly have no idea who he is, but I'm glad that you clarified that for me. USC, great gear, by the way. You know where you can get some great gear?
Hey guys, Austin here to talk for a brief moment about Home Field Apparel, the best place to snag clothing for all my favorite schools and teams. Whether it's tees, sweatshirts, hats, joggers, or pretty much anything in between, Home Field Apparel has retro designs with a modern twist to satisfy fans from Ohio State to Drexel to Colorado School of the Mines. Plus, it's some of the comfiest clothing that I own. Use our promo code Campus2Canton, that's Campus, the number 2 Canton at checkout, for 15% off your first purchase.
You're a professional, Matthew.
You know, I learned from the best. Learned from the best there, Felix. Anyways.
Who's the best? Who's the best at throwing it to an advertisement?
Colin Decker. I heard him try to do that multiple times in the Campus Live episode, including yourself. No, I think I don't know what you guys were discussing on Wayman Jordan, because obviously those, for you two who know, I'm having a lot of issues tonight. I think he's probably going to have a very good year. I mean, I do remember when you were advocating for him last year to get added to the rankings. I think, you know, I don't remember what was his injury last year that ended up kind of forcing him to.
It was lower body. I think it was ankle. I think it was ankle.
I mean, I think without that, he probably goes on to have an even better season. But I mean, typically we want the Lincoln Riley running backs going all the way back to his time at Oklahoma. I don't necessarily love the room behind him. I mean, I know, again, King Miller was okay. I actually do like the freshman they're bringing in Deshaun Rideau. But I do think it's going to be Wayman Jordan's backfield. And I expect him and USC to probably have a really good season. I know we were kind of talking about them being in the playoff race last year, but it was really like I think it was like Michigan had to lose against Ohio State and like all kinds of other doomsday scenarios for USC to make it in. I think USC with bringing Maava back and what they've done in the receiving room could be a really good team. And I think a lot of that's going to be led by Maava and Wayman Jordan on the ground.
He had the tightrope surgery. It did kind of seem like he could have came back towards the end, but they just kind of pumped the brakes because why bother? And King Miller had played well enough. But I think USD's offense in general, there's a lot of opportunity out there. It's a great system that we want. And I think like if I talked to Ethan on Ball with my bestie a good bit about it. It's like who's the freshman this year that's going to pop off? And I kind of keep thinking it's probably coming as the receiver too for USC. Like which of the young guys breaks out, and is it even possible they beat out Tanook Hines as the receiver one? Because I don't think anyone considers Tanook Hines to be any sort of like uber special talent, right? So I mean, you guys would know better than I, or maybe specifically you, Matt, because your work with the supplemental guide, right, or the freshman stuff. Is there a lead favorite for you with the receiver in terms of true freshmen for them?
I mean, the lead receiver, I mean, I know, was it Caden Dixon-Wyatt flipped from Ohio State there, and I believe I saw actually he's getting some pretty big buzz so far to start the, in spring camp? I mean, I had Booby Feaster ranked the highest he played here in Texas. I can't remember off the top of my head what school it was, but it's a pretty well-known school here in Texas. He was a high 4-star for me, almost a 5-star. He's a guy who you can use all over the field, specifically, though, as a deep threat. I actually was a big fan of, I'm trying to remember who the lower-end guy was, Trent Mosley, who is like their third wide receiver in the class. I believe, had him graded fairly close to Caden Dixon-Wyatt. So I think all three of them could be really good if you're looking for, because I think Booby Feaster's probably going to play kind of what Tanook Hines did. So, like, if you're looking for a guy who's going to separate himself, it might be Dixon-Wyatt just because of the kind of route runner he can be. And again, I know he's getting some hype already very early in their camp.
Yeah, actually, both guys are. Both Trent Mosley and Caden Dixon-Wyatt are getting hype. I just retweeted a tweet from I don't know who, but earlier last week they were talking about Caden Dixon-Wyatt, and I've seen some drum beats about him. But I'll be honest with you, I am so over trusting beat writers on who's good in camp. I'm so done with that.
What I will say is USC's does tend to be one of the better ones. When I was doing those spring camp reports back in the day, like every day, they have if you have a subscription to like 24/7 Sports and everything, you can go back and read there. I forgot what their specific insider one is, but like they don't really give a lot of their opinion. They just kind of state what happens in the practice, because Lincoln Riley only opens it for a certain amount of time. So it's not like they're getting to watch the whole practice. Like them, there was Oregon State. There was a few of them that were actually really good. Like I typically found like their beat reporter then was talking about how Mekhi Lemon was being used a lot, specifically on special teams, which is kind of where he ended up breaking his year 1-0 theory for us, where a lot of people kind of forgot about him. And he was the one too who actually talked about them never using Mekhi Lemon on defense, despite all the rumors saying like, hey, Mekhi Lemon's going to be playing defense for the Trojans as a freshman. So I think there are some good ones out there. I mean, we can name some of the bad ones.
We can name some of the bad ones. Whoever said that Kyler Casper at BYU is going to be a big part of their offense this year. I don't know if I said that on this show or another show, but that was the Kyler Casper. Here he is running in shorts with no pads on. He's going to be a big part of the offense for BYU this year. If he would have been a big part of the offense, he would have last year when Oregon was down Evan Stewart and DeCorian Moore late in the season. That's when the senior, the fourth-year player, would have stepped up. But you know how many receptions Kyler Casper has in his 4-year career? 6. So you tell me, what's he going to do in 2026? Is he going to double his production? He's going to have 12 receptions. Going to be what constitutes a big part of the offense. So I don't trust the beat reporters. Matthew, give us, now that you're back, give us one of your players that you are looking for, or not quitting. We're not quitting. We're not jumping ship on the player.
So I don't know if this one is fair. He's going to be a second-year player. That's running back Michael Turner for Baylor. He came out. I forgot who was everybody's favorite running back at Baylor last year? I forgot. Bryson Washington. I was trying to remember his name. Bryson Washington, who was supposed to have like this amazing year for the Baylor Bears and be a guy who kind of like breaks all kind of records, fantasy superstar. Started out well. I'm sure some of it was due to injury, but just kind of faded off toward the back. Michael Turner, who was coming back as a true freshman from at least a torn ACL, and I believe he had another ligament in his knee he tore as well. Was able to get on the field for the Baylor Bears as a true freshman, had a couple good games, but then also kind of faded out. he is a player I am not giving up on, despite them bringing in some other players in the transfer portal. And Dave Aranda possibly going to be fired by like week 6 this year. I don't know. Well, actually, I think they re-upped his contract, didn't they? I say that, but I kind of feel like maybe they did. But Dave Aranda, I think, is going to be perpetually on the hot seat ever since that Colorado Michigas that happened a couple years ago. But Michael Turner is a player that I'm refusing to give up on. I think that he could be the Baylor running back we can finally trust when it comes to fantasy, because we've been kind of got lately by the Baylor running backs.
Do we know what happened to Bryson Washington last year? Because he played in every game. He was the consensus 101 in the underdog draft. Yeah. And I remember seeing that, and I had to go back to 2024. I'm like, dang, is Bryson Washington really that dude? I mean, I guess he had a lot of volume. But, Chris, I mean, can you speak to what actually happened with their offense?
He got hurt. He was basically hurt every game. He kept playing, and I don't think he finished probably 4 games. Auburn, he missed a quarter, which was week 1, and then a bunch of games in the middle of the season, the end of the season, where you could just see him get banged up, and then he'd limp off, or he'd grab his side, and then he wouldn't finish the game, type of thing. But it felt like the whole running back room was banged up last year, because I know Turner missed some time, and I think the other guy too, Knighton, I think he got beat up as well. I mean, they just ran so many plays that maybe just bad luck, but I think they were in the mid 70s in terms of plays per game, which was one of the best, one of the highest for sure. So maybe that impacted it, but yeah, everybody felt like they were hurt the whole time.
Yeah, the 70s would put you up there, because I remember looking at Brennan Marion's offense, and he was in the 69 range, right in the 70, and that put him. Basically, it's like they're really grouped together. Like if you get to 79, that puts you at the top, and if you're at 69, you're like middle of the pack. But if you're in the top half, you're moving fast. So 70 would put you in the top half in the country. Bryson Washington going as RB 43 according to our current ADP. Matt, you were going to jump in and say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, to Chris's point, there is another reason why I'm still in on him, because on top of them running a ton of plays, he also runs the ball at like a 47% clip on early to neutral game script situations. So like that running back's going to get the ball a lot, and I don't see that offense changing much. And if Turner can get that kind of starting role, I think he's got the ability to be a very good fantasy player for you.
77, just under 77 plays per game. Pretty insane. I mean, Sawyer Robertson threw the ball 504 times. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, that's why a little bit of why I'm, for fantasy pure CFF sake, I'm pretty in on DJ Lagway at cost, because everything just seemed to mix and work right for Sawyer Robertson. So why wouldn't it do the same thing for Lagway? Not to get too far off the path here, but yeah, I think trying to figure out what running back is going to be the guy is going to be a huge value. And then you could hit big, because they're going to run a lot of plays and they're not afraid to run it, period.
Lagway was a player I was considering as well for putting into this segment because of the tools alone. And then, as you just mentioned, if Sawyer Robinson did what he did, DJ Lagway, let's just be honest, has more talent. I think his other problem has been he just hasn't been healthy either. If he could stay healthy, running the ball and throwing the ball could be a very interesting player in that offense.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Chris, but do you know who he's going to be throwing the ball to? I mean, no Josh Cameron this year. Do you know off the top of your head? It's okay if not. We can cover it later.
They have a lot of random guys. They don't have it. This is one of those rooms you're like we talked about last week. It's like, why would you go into this season with this as your receiver group? They have Draylon Miller, who's kind of like a pseudo running back,
wide receiver coming from Colorado. Yeah.
From Colorado. They have Gavin Freeman, the big play threat from Oklahoma State. And then we have Hardly Gilmore listed, but did he transfer back to, I want to say he just announced that he was going back to Kentucky.
I feel like he did. Hardly Gilmore is a player that both me and Corey P actually liked, was at Kentucky. And I feel like he transferred out of Kentucky for a season and then went back to Kentucky and may have entered the transfer portal this year, but then decided he would stay in.
So they lose their top 4 receivers and obviously the top tight end, Michael Trigg. So there's a little bit of sketchiness there as to actually who he's throwing to. But Jake Spavital has been great recent years, so I would prefer to lean towards just trusting that they'll figure it out. They'll find somebody.
And Draylon Miller is a player that I'm pretty sure I highlighted, or we may have highlighted last year. I thought that there was the potential that he would take up some of the lost production from Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn leaving, and LaJohntay Wester. If you all remember the start of that 2024 season, it wasn't Travis Hunter, it wasn't Jimmy Horn, it wasn't LaJohntay Wester. Who got the first reception of the season? It was Draylon Miller, this true freshman there at Colorado. And you're right, Chris. He did have that, tweener, not as explosive as Zachariah Branch. Somebody used the same way, but used close to the line of scrimmage, sometimes on jet sweeps, a lot of bubble screens, that type of thing. I thought he was going to be the most productive player for Colorado. It didn't turn out that way. He could be a player that I'm not quitting. He could be a player that I quit. I really wanted the Cardinal. I wanted Louisville to grab Draylon Miller. He ends up going there. So that's a good one. All right, let me get my player out of the way. And it's Lenore Sellers. I know that he was not good last year. But if we're talking about patterns as far as what the NFL likes, they repeatedly try these types of guys. They give them chances. Anthony Richardson just a few years ago. Trey Lance played one season, and then a practice game that they put on the schedule during the pandemic so he could play like Northwest. I forgot that school that he played. But that one where he played that one game just in the second season, they drafted Trey Lance in the top 5. San Francisco did. Jalen Milroe, a dual threat that went in the first 3 rounds. Blake Bortles was a top 10 draft pick. Ryan Tannehill spent 2 years playing quarterback at Texas A&M before being drafted, going from wide receiver to quarterback. He's one. Jake Locker, Colin Kaepernick. Tim Tebow was the biggest reach I've ever seen in my life. And Lenore Sellers is much more talented than Tim Tebow was as a passer. I just think that the NFL is going to take a shot with this guy because of his speed, because of his athleticism. And if he makes a jump here, and I don't know that he necessarily even needs to make a jump. I think that he's going to go in the first 2 rounds. And I just looked at his ADP. He's still at quarterback 11, but he's going behind some of the freshmen, Jared Curtis, Keyshawn Henderson, those guys. And I just, he's going behind CJ Carr. I don't have a very firm take on CJ Carr. So if I'm in the startup and Lenore Sellers is falling into the 5th, 6th round, I'm still going to draft that at that value because I think that he is going to, the NFL is going to want him and he's going to go hot in the 1st or 2nd round. I really think that he is.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say from a C2C pure NFL standpoint. I mean, it makes sense, right? If Anthony Richardson can be considered, why would Sellers not be? I mean, he's athletic. He's got the tools. The offensive coordinator has been kind of odd for them and not to be the best fit for Sellers. I will say he was incredible his the second half of the season, his freshman year. And then last year, he was the #1 quarterback for P4 for college fantasy in the playoffs for underdogs. So basically the last 3 weeks, he scored the most points at quarterback. I think it was like
he did the same thing the year prior where he had a good late. Yeah.
So it's like, all right, are we taking this leap? Like what's going on at the end of the season here? But they have a new play caller. I'm fairly positive. So hopefully we get a little bit more out of it. The offensive line plays a little bit better and maybe we see some better, more consistent production, maybe from the jump, because a lot of times you're like, oh, he starts off great because they're playing non-con, right? Or maybe, then they get into the SEC season and he struggles. Well, like he was incredible for Clemson 2 years in a row. He was incredible for multiple SEC games down the stretch as freshman year. So it's kind of odd, but hopefully the new play caller can help him out.
Oh, the new play caller is going to be great for him. You guys do not know who it is? It's Kendall Briles. Look at what he did with Josh Hoover the past couple of years at TCU, who's not near the athlete that Lenore Sellers is.
And KJ Jefferson at one point, right?
I believe
KJ Jefferson.
So. Yeah,
it's a good year, hopefully.
So I mean, yeah, I think, especially with a guy like Briles, who I think will lean a little bit more into allowing Sellers. I think the biggest problem for Sellers over the past couple years, they haven't gotten him out of the pocket with how bad that offensive line is. So he's ended up just having to run for his life, where Briles maybe will get him on the move a little bit more and allow him to then use his legs if he wants to. I mean, Lenore Sellers can run, but he's not a run-first quarterback. He's, I think, just a legitimately good quarterback. So I think Briles could get the best out of him this year. And I think, he's probably been left for dead because of what Chris just said. I mean, he's started out really good, then kind of gotten bad, and then kind of turned it up. It's been probably the past 2 years, maybe even 3. He kind of like starts turning it on the last couple of games and looking good and giving you hope. And then, but again, I think it's been horrible play calling. And shout out to one Chris Moxley, who I'm sure will listen to this later, who called that from the beginning when Beamer hired, I forgot who it was that was their offensive coordinator, and said it was not going to be a good thing for for Lenore Sellers, and it really hasn't been.
Yeah, it's funny how these coaches don't match their scheme to their personnel. Bill O'Brien is one. They just don't match their scheme to the personnel. Kay, I want to come to you for your next player because there's a player that you have on your list that makes me feel nostalgic. I remember watching this player's father catch passes from Sean King for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and some of those Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp teams. And I also like this player's play caller. So, Chris, give us that guy.
I knew you were going to go there. I wrote this down. I was like, he's going to bring up Bert Emanuel Sr. So, yeah, the guy is Bert Emanuel Jr., the San Diego State quarterback. I use that term loosely because he is not a thrower by any means. But if you watch that bowl game, it like immediately brings you back in. I think he went 11 for 170 and 2 touchdowns against North Texas. And he did it, I want to say it, around halftime he got himself hurt. So, I mean, he's just about as good of a runner as it's going to get. Somehow it did not work out in the MAC. Somehow he had that like 4-game stretch, maybe 2-3 years ago, and he faded away. But he's with Sean Lewis at San Diego State. You got to hope that maybe year 2, year 3, that system gets going. They're in that weird, is San Diego State in that weird Pac-12 league, or are they still in the Mountain West? Either way, the competition is a good mix. Nothing that I'm too concerned about, but from a pure fantasy perspective, I don't know how it doesn't get better than a 6'5", 240 running back that's at quarterback.
They are in the Pac-12.
There we go.
Pac-12 is super watered down, man.
I think they play Fresno State twice. They're one of those leagues where they play each other. Like some teams play each other.
Yeah, I mean,
twice.
There's only 8 teams in there, so
classic move.
You gotta do something.
Chris, where would you rank Sean Lewis as far as play callers or offensive minds that you need to pay attention to as far as CFF scoring goes? Top 10, top 20, top 30?
I think as long as he's in the G5, it's a top 10 to 15. He kind of lost his way a little bit. Even at Colorado, he was successful. He ran a ton of plays. Maybe it didn't work out exactly like you wanted it to, but there was some hope there and a little bit of production during his time before he got, I guess, sat down a little bit. But it hasn't been what we wanted at San Diego State, but a couple of years into it, you got to think he's gotten the guys that he wants and that fits the system. And but yeah, I mean, this is really probably a top 15 type system just from everything we've seen over the years, as long as he stays in the G5. If he moves up, then you start to get concerned about the speed and the lack of maybe pure well-roundedness of an offense. But yeah, that's a really big offense that you want to keep an eye on. Lucky Sutton at running back is another big name that's being drafted in leagues right now. Top 2-3 round pick for that very reason.
All right, Matt. I want you to give us another quarterback, a player that you've interviewed before, who we knew made the wrong. We talked about Baylor quarterback. This quarterback was one time committed to Baylor. That's where he should have gone, but he went to a depth chart that he was not going to be able to top. So, who is that guy?
I appreciate you being Steve Nash here and setting me up. I was going to go a completely different direction with the player I was going to talk about next. But if you want to hear about this quarterback, you can hear about him right after this. All right, if you're watching on the video, there's no actual ad. I have to do that for Colin. I have to remember that time too. It's a whole thing, Felix. Don't get mad at me. Anyways, I'm talking about one Austin Novosad who is going to Bowling Green. Now, I think this is a tad bit of a step down of his actual talent, but he's actually going to get to play. And I think that with a player that has the talent that he does, he's going into forgot what it was. It was like Big Fish, Little Pond or something like that Brandon used to do back in the day, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Small pond.
That is
it was a
small
little
pond.
small.
Little. You're probably right. Big Fish, Small Pond. You are correct, Chris Kay. Thank you for correcting me. That's what Austin Novosad is going to be going to Bowling Green. I know I got Colin Decker on my side as well. He's not giving up on the Austin Novosad train. They actually passed the ball a ton last year with a pretty bad quarterback who could not pass the ball. So I'm excited to see what Austin Novosad does for Bowling Green. I am under no illusion that he is going to be like a top 24 fantasy quarterback. Can we push for top 36? I think so. And I'll be okay with that.
I was trying to figure out if we could do polls here. I've been trying to figure that out. I see other streamers do polls. What percentage of college football fans do you think know where Bowling Green is located?
I do.
Well, I mean, what percentage of college football fans do you think? I pass it when I go home. So it's
3%, 4%,
10%. Sounds probably right.
Yeah. Yeah. 10%. I think 10%. Bowling Green in Ohio. It's easy to do the MAC schools because the MAC schools are just Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan, right? There's 3 of them in Michigan. Ball State is in Indiana.
Yeah.
Illinois.
Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Just that Midwest. They stick to the regionality for the most part, right? Besides Sacramento State and
is Sacramento State in the MAC?
They just joined up.
They just joined this year. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And UMass is in the MAC now too. I think this is year 2 for them. Maybe.
You're telling me we could have had Brennan Marion in the MAC if he would have stayed as a head coach at Sacramento State. That would have been – they might win the MAC this year. I mean, I don't know. Sacramento State has had some talent come out of there recently. Danny Scudero, Cam Scatabo, Brennan Marion's now the offensive coordinator.
Jaden Rashada played there.
I mean, did he do anything last year?
No, the numbers were pretty bleak. I don't even think he played all the games.
So Billy Napier was right to say, we're pulling your contract, buddy.
Oh, Buffalo. So 3 schools. Buffalo, too. I forgot Buffalo's in the MAC.
I thought you were trying to say Buffalo's in Ohio.
No, I'm not that dumb. I'm dumb. Not that dumb.
I will say I'm impressed by the quarterbacks in the MAC this year. We have some actual – there's some years recently where you're just like quarterback play is the absolute worst. But we actually have some – interesting, some from fantasy standpoint, and then some from like this guy could actually be pretty decent. Because Felix, were you a Poffenbarger guy or were you a Mestemaker guy? Because
I threw a tantrum on Twitter when they made Mestemaker the starter
because Poffenbarger went to Akron, right? I know he's in the MAC. I think it's Akron, but yeah. So
I didn't realize that. I will be damn. So you got Sacramento State and Reese Poffenbarger in the MAC. I was calling Reese Poffenbarger G5 Zach Wilson. Like that's who he reminded me of. So I absolutely threw a temper tantrum when Drew Mestemaker was named the starter. So, all right, Kay, why don't you give us another one of yours?
Let's do a fresh face or a new same name, fresh team. Quasi Gilmer at Nebraska. A lot of us were on him at UCLA with that potential offense and what we could do with, I think it was Tino Sunseri. That's a throwback name for you, Felix, as the play caller / QB coach, the former Pitt guy, former Pitt quarterback, old school. Didn't work out. Nico was not good at quarterback, and Gilmer felt that. Now he pairs up with Calandri at Nebraska. Ethan's spouting propaganda about how in Slack about how what's his name? Rule is talking about doing a Diego Pavea type swaggy offense this year, which is just classic offseason. But I think Calandria is a good fit for Quasi Gilmer. That offense needs a receiver to step up. I like it. I think he's talented enough. And so it'll be interesting to see. I think they'll take a step up in offense. Rayola was fine, but maybe we'll get a little bit more out of Calandria with his dual threatness.
Who's their quarterback?
Anthony Calandria.
Transferred
in from UNLV.
UNLV. Well, then who's UNLV's quarterback? Is it Alex Orji?
Dude, you're not going to believe it. Jackson Arnold.
Oh, damn! It might as well be Alex Orji.
The circle of life, man. The way things happen in college football, it's like one domino effect after another.
I want to know where Alex Orji is because that's a player who should have switched to tight end.
I'm gonna look it up.
I want to know where Alex Orji is. Sorry, Alex Orji. Is he still playing football?
I think he went professional in something other than sports. I hope. I think he's got to be
still a quarterback at UNLV.
Remember early in the season for UNLV when they were switching out? I don't know if people remember this last year. I wasn't here to actually talk about it. Remember early in the season last year? Chris, do you remember this? Early in the season last year, it was like the first or second game, UNLV was playing and they were switching Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji at quarterback. And Alex Orji was down around the goal line, around the 5 or 6 yard line. He had a clean shot to the goal line, was kind of coasting, got hit, fumbles the ball, and turned us over, and he never got to play quarterback again.
Never again. Dan Mullen doesn't play. Never again.
So he is recovering from an LCL sprain and torn hamstring that he suffered in September. But according to what I'm reading, he is rehabbing with plans to return to the team in 2026. So he is planning on coming back to the UNLV Rebels.
Dan Mullen, one of the best play callers for dual threat quarterbacks, in my opinion. All right, Matt, give us another one of your players that you're not quitting.
Yeah, speaking of players who have been injured, I am sticking with Texas Tech running back Quentin Joyner, who I think a lot of people may be giving up on because of how good Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams were last year, filling in for him. Joyner tore his ACL, I believe was actually in spring camp, so it was probably right around a year ago. But Joyner is just a special athlete, and I think he brings something to that running back room that neither Dickey nor Williams bring. He comps in our athletic database to Bijan Robinson, to give you guys who are listening, who may watch the NFL Player Profile Network, kind of like that. It's him, Isaiah Crowell, and I forgot who the other one is, but it's Rashad Penny. Those are like the athletic comps that Quentin Joyner comps to in our database. He can catch the ball. He had over 80, I think it was 80 yards the last time he was on the field for USC on 12 catches. Very good runner of the ball as well. Now, Texas Tech doesn't, I believe, if I remember correctly, throw to their running back as much as he was getting the ball there at USC. And it is a crowded room. Like you're going to be kind of playing with fire with this one, I think, a little bit. Because, again, Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams were both very good, and neither one of them, if I remember correctly, transferred out. So they're both there. So all three of them will be in this offense, but we saw how good that team was last year. I think they're going to try and repeat again and win and try and go for the Big 12 championship. But I just think Quentin Joyner brings something completely different to this room they don't currently have. And I think he's going to remind everybody how good he is. And he does have NFL talent. So like from a C2C perspective, that part matters.
What's really sad is that before he tore his ACL and had that injury, there was talk about him being a 3-down back, and that they loved Joyner and how he was performing in the spring. And I mean, we all saw what Taj Brooks did for them for 2 straight years just before that. And you wonder, like, man, would they have used him like that? And as a guy as talented and athletic as that, with 250 to 300 touches, would have been absolutely insane.
But there's zero chance that happens this season.
Now there's zero chance.
I mean, there is zero. Jacoby Williams' role is not going to be reduced, in my opinion.
The only thing that he benefits from is he's both Dickey and Jacoby Williams.
Yeah.
I don't think, because of the way college football is now, if you're an elite team or a top 12 team, you're not hammering your best running back or one of your best skill guys in weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6, especially if he's coming off injury. So I think they kind of maybe let him get his feet under him a little bit. Non-con, they're not going to play anybody significant, and they're going to spread the touches around. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's a big-time NFL back, because, I mean, he's extremely impressive, and I think he's shown enough at USC before the injury to be widely considered as a big player.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I'm not giving up on him, because I think right now you can I mean, I know he's still ranked fairly highly for me, and I think Austin still has him pretty high in his running back ranks.
Yep.
But I think the fact that backfield is so crowded, there's going to be times where, like, it could be either one, right? Maybe Cameron Dickey has the game that day, or it is Jacoby Williams, and Joyner has a really good game. But I think going into the season, people are going to see there's 3 backs back there. He's coming off an injury, and especially if he doesn't start the season fairly well, I think you'll be able to trade fairly cheap for Quentin Joyner. And again, I just think people will, it's a what have you done for me lately kind of world. They will forget how good he was.
You could definitely, I mean, with the injury and the depth in that backfield, you could absolutely trade for Quentin Joyner right now. No question. Damn, I was going to ask a question. Oh, I was going to add something here. If you read that Chris Hummer article, we've heard that Texas Tech is throwing out a lot of money. They talked about an instance where a player was transferring. Coach Martin wanted to talk to this player after the season. It was a Miami player, and he was going to offer him money to stay, but he already had a seven-figure offer from Texas Tech. I mean, that's a $1 million offer from Texas Tech. And there were two instances where they had been bid out by Texas Tech. So Texas Tech is throwing out cash out there.
They spent maybe $900K on Reggie Virgil from, I think it was Miami, Ohio, a year last offseason. So yeah, they're not playing around. It's kind of absurd.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, that was kind of all the stuff with Joyner last year, right? Was all the rumors about all the money he was getting, and that was kind of why a lot of people leaned toward him being the guy first before he actually started performing at spring camp. Like Texas Tech was just throwing money at everybody. They wanted to make the playoffs, and they did.
Yeah, but I think you're right. Joyner, to me, could be. I think you're still going to pay enough of a price for him, but there's a very high likelihood that he doesn't start strong or that he just doesn't get a ton of usage. There's enough running backs out there, especially if you want to play it this way, where you grab a CFF style running back in your supplemental, you trade for Joyner, and you just kind of play the longer game with him. Maybe you get lucky. I drafted Bryce Underwood last year thinking I'm never going to play him in CFF, and I'm happy with that because I think from a pure talent perspective, obviously, right? Duh, I'm not like some Nostradamus here that he's some superstar talent. He is, but now I just got lucked into a great offense. What if Dickey gets hurt? What if Jacoby Williams gets hurt? Like there's so many possibilities that there is a little bit of a some upside play there to him too if things fall your way.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about with Joyner is there's a chance that Dickey and Williams jump to the NFL after this year, and then Joyner stays for one more year and is the primary back. Maybe not in 2026, but in 2027. That's a possibility. All right.
Anything can happen these days in NIL. Anything.
All right, Chris, you got one more player to add for us that you're not quitting.
Same team, Coy Aiken, the receiver. They had some really good producers a couple years back, and then last year it just spread out amongst everybody. Their top 3 receivers, including Aiken, just kind of all got the same type of production. I'm curious to see where they play him. Typically you would want a slot player in this offense. It just didn't really seem to be that way. He played a ton of slot this past season. The year prior, he played almost exclusively outside. In 2025, it was the outside. So we'll see. I'm curious to see where he lines up. He's being drafted at least super early in 2026 as the last guy of the top 3 receivers for them. So I'm in on it. I took a ton of them last year, and they're going to throw for so many passing touchdowns that I'll try to bank on some big games where he gets a touchdown 100 yards, and maybe it's not a consistent production, but you'll have some nice spike weeks because that offense is just going to roll consistently.
This is a year that there's a lot of reason to pay attention to storylines because Brendan Storesby, he's a player. When he was at Indiana, I was like, Brendan Storesby's good, and then he goes to Cincinnati, and now he's at Texas Tech. But now he's allegedly in the first round conversation for next year. Does that pan out? You mentioned Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood in the new Kyle Whittingham and Jason Beck offense. That's an interesting one because Michigan has always prided itself on hiring Michigan men. Did either of you see the press conference when they asked Kyle Whittingham, Kyle, do you hate Ohio State? Did y'all remember his answer? He said, no, I do now. I mean, it was just so he is not the traditional head coach who just goes in there and we've got this game on the calendar and we're going to be going and beating Ohio State. So I think that rivalry is going to take a little bit of a, as far as intensity, it's going to draw back a little bit, but okay. Matt, do you have another one that you, and then you have another one and then I got a question for you guys.
Yeah, last one, I'll make it quick, is Matt Zollers, quarterback at Missouri, who I was a big fan of in last year's class. Obviously, didn't set the world on fire for Missouri last year when he had to step in after Bo Perbula got hurt. I think it was probably game 6 or 7. It was toward the end of the year. I think he played in about 6 games. Matt Zollers himself coming off a pretty nasty leg injury in his final senior season in high school, missed his entire season and ended up coming in and playing. So I'm not going to judge him too harshly on that. Now, I know he is battling with Austin Simmons, who transferred in from Ole Miss. I really don't think Austin Simmons is anything special. It does sound like that. I know Colin was talking the other day. The reports had him as number 4 competing in the room, and now it says that he's right there with Austin Simmons competing for that starting job. Again, I just think that Zollers brings something different to that offense with his legs. He is a very good. I shouldn't say he's a very good passer of the ball. He does struggle with his accuracy, but he's got a very strong arm. I just think that he can bring that Missouri offense to a different level. He does know the offense and being there last year and playing in it. So it'll be interesting to see if he does win the job. Again, it's another player you're taking a little bit of a risk on because if he loses it, I don't think he takes it back from Austin Simmons unless Simmons gets hurt. So you're taking a little bit of a risk. But again, he's a guy paying nothing for, if not maybe drafting with like your last pick in a freshman supplemental draft because he's likely available, unless you're in a league with me because I roster him everywhere. So yeah, Matt Zollers though is a player that I still believe in, and I think will be a very good player here in 2026.
That's a tough one. I don't know how likely he is to win that job, but again, the cost has to be minimal, absolutely minimal. So like there's a level of like take your shots on some athletes and some guys that you think could pop. And maybe he's the year 2 starter at Missouri. That's pretty impressive for a future standpoint.
Wait, can I give one more actually, Felix? Since we're not doing the like top players or teams that we talked about, there's 2 actually. George Pettaway, throwback name. James Madison, running back with Billy Napier. We know Billy Napier loves to run the ball. It was actually he
also likes to split it between like 4 guys. But go ahead.
There's only 2 guys on James Madison's roster right now. I don't remember who the other guy is. So I think Pettaway could be. And Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly loves his running backs. Gavin Sawchuk at Northwestern, baby. I got to get another one of my guys in there.
I think you just talked about 2 guys who are absolutely going to be in committees because who's the
Caleb
yeah.
Komalafe, he was really impressive for them. They also have we talked about this, Matt, I think months ago about Northwestern's schedule being just the absolute,
it's really bad.
They have the week 2 bye, and they basically think of every team you don't want a Big Ten team to play against in the Big Ten, and they play them, and a lot of a hard ones on the road. So it's hard to love a running back from that standpoint, like that's in that situation.
Well, we do love the quarterback in that situation. Former friend of the show, Aiden Childs, a quarterback for Northwestern. Back to Billy Napier here. Billy Napier will pull a fan from the stands and give him 110 touches at the running back position just so he can divide it between 4 guys. Okay, we talked about Miami of Ohio and competing with Texas Tech. Matt, let's say that you hypothetically are a 3-star transferring from a G5 school and you get a $900,000 contract over 2 years. How are you spending the money?
I'm getting how much money?
$450,000 a year.
And you said I'm a freshman in college?
I said it's a 2-year contract, Matthew.
All right. I was texting Colin. I was trying to keep him updated with things. I apologize. Okay. How am I spending the money? I don't know. Like back then, I probably would have spent the money not at all the way I think now. I'm a little bit older, so I have different ideas of how I'd spend the money. I don't know. Back then, I'd probably go buy like flashy clothes, watches, a car.
How would you spend it now? I just want to know how you would spend it. How would you spend it now?
Oh, I'd 1,000% just like invested and put it away. I wouldn't spend it on anything. I don't need anything. I have this conversation with people all the time. If I were to win the lottery, I'd like buy myself a new car and then the rest of it would get put away. I don't need anything. I have a nice life. I put it away for my kids and to go. Maybe I'd take like a 2-month vacation and like backpack through Europe, go to all the places I really want to go to. But like outside that, I'm just putting the money away. I'm happy with my life, Felix.
I'm uninteresting. I would do the same thing. The feeling that people get when they spend money and buy something is the feeling I get when I don't spend money. It's a pretty amazing feeling. If I was a kid, like in college,
that's the dad disease right there.
If I was a kid in college, the first thing I thought of was like, what's the biggest TV I could fit in my room, or like the TV, like the living room with the guys. Probably spend it too much on some booze. Probably would buy a nice car. Just your typical 18, 19, 20-year-old type stuff. Yeah. But yeah, nowadays, give me, let me put that one in my bank account. Just sit on it.
Listen, you know what, you guys, I asked this question because I wanted to give an answer that damn near constitutes financial advice, but I feel like I would need an SEC warning to say this is for educational purposes only. Because not only would I invest it, I can tell you exactly the ticker symbols that I would invest it in. We're not going to DM me. You can DM me on Twitter at Sharpe Review if you want to know exactly how I would invest $900,000, $700,000 after taxes. All right, so I have developed this game to finish out the show where I'm going to give a statement to you both, and somebody gets to pick the true side first, that the statement is true, and then the other person will have to argue the opposite. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah. One of us is for, one of us is against it, essentially.
Matthew, were you listening? You understand how the game is going to work?
I understand this time. I'm not texting Colin anymore. Yes,
all right, and then I'll pick the winner. The winner, and I'll give a point for each argument. We're going to start with this one. We're going to start with this one. In K, you will get to go first, choosing for or against, or true or false, excuse me. The statement is Kyle Whittingham and Jason Beck will produce the first 1,000-yard receiver for Michigan since 2007. Which side you taking?
I taking that's going to happen. Yeah, that's easily going to happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Marsh, I know that the C2C side has not necessarily loved him, but he played very well last year, and that was in a lame duck rushing offense that Michigan had. Now we have Jason Beck. I mean, all that guy has done is pumped out athletic, highly productive, great offenses that are not afraid to throw the football. I don't know how many passing or receiving yards the top Utah guy had last year. It's probably not that far away from 1,000. So pair him up with Underwood, and I'm definitely going that route.
But I mean, I think Luke Wysong was a 1,000-yard receiver, or very close, and Jason Beck was his offensive coordinator. Jason Beck has put up some numbers with a number. Matthew, I thought the easier answer was no, that's not going to happen. But so Matthew, you give me. Well, you have to give me the opposite. So what?
Yeah, I would say false. I mean, you're talking about him. Yes, you're right. Ryan Davis came very close to hitting 1,000 yards last year at 725, only 300 yards short. So yeah, I guess you can consider that close. No, it's not. Like 900 is close. Let's see. Let's go back. The next year, the next closest was 700 again. Look at that. It seems like a lot of his wide receivers hit a right around the 700 mark. Because why? On top of Jason Beck, I actually do think he's a very good offensive coordinator, and I do think will make the Michigan offense more explosive. Kyle Whittingham loves to have his fingers on everything that he does. And what does Kyle Whittingham love? Kyle Whittingham, as Felix would probably tell you, I think Kyle Whittingham was coaching back in the 1930s when it was 2 yards in a cloud of dust. Kyle Whittingham loves to run the ball, and he loves to play tough defense. What does Michigan love to do? Kyle Whittingham may not actually be a Michigan man, but he kind of is a Michigan man when it comes to coaching, because all Michigan loves to do is run the ball and play really good defense. So I do think that there will be a wide receiver who comes close to 1,000 yards this year. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be based around the running backs and good defense once again. So I will say false on this.
Kyle Whittingham he wants to be Ty Jordan. He wants to be Zach Moss. He wants to run the ball. That's what Kyle Whittingham wants to do. Jason Beck, he don't want to do it. Jason Beck wants to do all this passing. I don't know that matches up with what Kyle Whittingham wants to do.
You forget about Olamide Zaccheaus, Dontavian Wicks, Keaton Thompson. These are guys. Keaton went 990, but same thing. It's not like you graded out New Mexico's top receiver one season. I think that's a little unfair to compare. But
all right, bonus point if you can give me the wide receiver in 2007 for Michigan who had that last 1,000-yard season for the Wolverines. Kay, you should be able to get this.
You said it was in what year? 2007.
That was the year they lost to App State. Who was I was a freshman in college. So it was a little bit not. Mario Manningham.
Was it Mario Manningham? Good job, Chris.
That's the correct answer, Sound. That was the correct answer. Mario Manningham. Can you imagine? 2007 was the last time Michigan had a 1,000-yard receiver. And Chris Kay, 2026 is going to be the year for him to have another one. Andrew Marsh.
Virginia Tech went forever without a 1,000-yard receiver ever, and then Isaiah Ford did it back in like 2015 or 2017.
I was going to say, did Eddie Royal go?
Never did.
Okay. All right. It's so much easier to remember players when they were available on the video game up to 2014, and I played with them. That's why it's easy to remember some of those players from back then when they were on NCAA, because that was the Marcus Vick. I feel like Marcus Vick and Eddie Royal were on the same team. I could be misremembering that.
Dude, Eddie Royal didn't break 500 yards at Virginia Tech.
Really?
Season. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, because I think of Eddie Royal as being like an all-time great Virginia Tech player.
They always said he was pound for pound the strongest player in Virginia Tech history type of thing. But yeah, he never broke 500.
All right, point to Chris Kay for going with the bold take there on Michigan. Here is the next statement. We'll just stay at the wide receiver position. And Matt, you get to choose this one. Arizona State will produce 2 wide receivers with more than 700 yards receiving in 2026. The reason why I think this is interesting is because they have both Amarian Miller and Reed Harris. And they also has Raiden Vinesbright, but I really like the top 2 guys. Will both of them surpass 700 yards in 2026?
700 yards receiving. I am going to say false. I think that's the easy answer here. So, yes, I do think that their wide receiver room is interesting in adding in Amarian Miller and Reed Harris. I do not believe in Cutter Boley. I understand that he was better than most expected at Kentucky. And I do actually think that going to Arizona State and having a head coach like Kenny Dillingham, who we've seen get the best out of players like Bo Nix and Sam Levitt. I mean, Sam Levitt obviously got the massive transfer up there because of what he did at Arizona State. But I do think that overall, Arizona State is still going to take a step back. We've also seen that he does like to run the ball quite a bit, but I just don't think that Cutter Boley is going to be able to supply 2 wide receivers to going over 700 on top of what I'll add to get my own little bonus point here. I'm just throwing this in there, see if I can, get Felix all excited here. I think Omari Miller will actually go over 700 all-purpose yards because I think they'll use him sometimes, maybe even as a rushing threat. But I don't think that he will get 700 over. Both of them will get over 700 receiving yards.
Can I do 1,400 yards total for the top 2 receivers?
This
is a tough task here, but Cutter Boley was like respectfully good as a redshirt freshman at Kentucky. He did not get 700 yards for one of his players, but he also didn't have anybody as talented as these guys. So, when you don't have a true alpha, like
he had Harley Gilmore that we just talked about.
He did. Yeah. When you don't have a true alpha, like Jordan Tyson, you got to spread it out a little bit more. I think conceivably the talent is there. Maybe they're playing from behind enough, but yeah, this is a tough task for Boley. Maybe he's better. I mean, Sam Levitt wasn't all that special until we got to Dillingham. Maybe Boley levels up with the new coach.
All right. Bonus point for the last time this happened. That Arizona State had 2 wide receivers over 700 yards receiving. God. It's in recent history.
Absolutely.
I actually don't remember who the second player was, but it was one of these N'Keal Harry years. For Arizona State. So, okay.
N'Keal Harry was one of them.
Yeah, N'Keal Harry was the leading receiver, and they had another receiver that went over.
That'd have been when Jaden Daniels.
Maybe like the first year of Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. All right. Let me give you guys the next statement. Let's go with a team take here. Not player, but a team take. And the statement is, tell me true or false. Kay, I guess you get to choose this time. True or false, Indiana is the team to beat in the Big Ten this year.
I would go with true. Why not? Ohio State lost a bunch of talent. Obviously, the offense is going to be good with a good quarterback, obviously best receiver in the country. Michigan is going to be good, but I mean, year one of a new system, new team. I mean, Indiana didn't they just win the national championship? And they have basically going into the year, you would have said Josh Hoover today, a year ago, would be better than Mendoza, right? Mendoza wasn't all that special going into the team. Look at that. Replace receiver talent. You could argue that the receivers are better. The running backs are better. I mean, I don't know. They're going to lose some players too, but I mean, considering what they've shown us the last 2 years and what Signetti's done, it's hard pressed to say that they're not the team to beat because of all that success and how they replace some key positions.
Matthew, and you can get your answer here in a second. I keep thinking about these wide receiver cores in college football. Indiana with Nick Marsh and Charlie Becker. That's a really good one too, man. That's a really good one too. All right, Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how I'm going to defend the false here, but I'm going to do my best. I'm just going to come at it with a lot of.
You're an Ohio State homer. How is it hard to defend your team?
Indiana, Ohio, with what? Julian Sayin, who everybody now all of a sudden is realizing is not as good as they thought he was last year. And I'm looking at some of you in the media who kept talking about he's the next coming of who God knows who. Look, they have a hard schedule. They're going to play a lot of really good teams in the Big Ten this year, which they have kind of avoided over the past couple of years. And, they don't get Oregon, which is a good thing for Oregon. Oregon Ducks fans very happy right now that they don't have to play Indiana, maybe only in the playoffs. But they do have to go to the Big House. Here's the thing. Look, I get it. Michigan is implementing a new offense and defense. Kyle Whittingham just does tend to win. So I think that will be a tough game for them. It's never easy to go into the Big House. They do have Ohio State in the regular season. Say what you want. They did lose a lot of players, but I think they'll be able to battle Indiana. Indiana lost a lot. They don't have all those 28-year-olds going up against a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds right now. So maybe that'll be the thing that brings Indiana back down to earth a little bit, is they've got to rely a little bit more on youth compared to the age that they were relying on. But yeah, I think I would take Ohio State in the revamped offense of USC with Jaden Maava and Lincoln Riley as the team.
Matt, you want to fly up here and go to the Indiana-Ohio State game in Bloomington this year?
When is it? October 17th? Yeah, why not?
I looked at the calendar. I'm like, that is one I might need to get an Airbnb for and stay on campus Friday through Sunday and go to that game.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What you look? We Austin's not going to listen to the show. We make this a Campus to Canton thing. Campus to Canton will pay for Felix and Matt to go to the Indiana-Ohio State game as we report live.
I feel like if we do content from there, it's a write-off. So,
well, Austin and his write-offs, as he's always got an issue with that. But I don't disagree with you. I think we should make.
Isn't that like the benefit to having an accountant on staff?
I thought so, but it's we shouldn't pick on Austin. He's not here.
If we did some man on the street type stuff, that is absolutely 100% a write-off. Well, at least maybe if we stay Sunday, but.
Well, okay. The flights were delayed flights. Couldn't make it back till Sunday. What's wrong with that?
All right, I've got one more here. Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers made good business decisions for themselves, both transferring to Texas. Matthew, you start us off on that one. True or false?
I will say false. And I will say false because you said both of them. I do think one of them made the right decision, and I would lean more toward that being Hollywood Smothers than Raleek Brown. While I do know that Raleek Brown actually looked fairly good at times for Arizona State last year and is an explosive weapon, and I trust in Steve Sarkisian and his offensive mind and the way he gets the best out of his players. But the thing is, I still think that Texas's offensive line is going to struggle a little bit. I'm not necessarily believing in what this offense is going to be with Arch Manning. I know that the wide receiver room looks at least a little bit more interesting with some of the players that they have in there, and the Ryan Wingo being in there for another year. Who am I forgetting? It transferred in from Stanford last year. Was it Mosley? This is his second year, right? Because he didn't go to the NFL, so second year now in this offense. He was banged up a little bit as well, so maybe a full year healthy. But what we have seen since leaving his time at Washington, we have not actually seen Steve Sarkisian get that 1,000-yard running back in quite a while. And I just don't think that Hollywood Smothers nor Raleek Brown really fits the mold of the running backs that Sark used to get the best out of. I think they both amplified different parts of the game. Raleek Brown's not really going to run it up the middle, but he could be an interesting guy that you throw the ball to. Maybe you get him outside on the edge and he breaks off a couple big plays. And Hollywood Smothers is not going to be the guy that you're really dumping the ball off a ton to, in my opinion. So I don't think that both of them will succeed to a massive amount. I think one of them will, and I think it'll end up being Smothers. So I say false.
Well, good for me. I wanted to say true anyways. These are both talented running backs. They would be more inclined to show off their talent on a big stage, a big program, not get overused. They're both Brown is older than Smothers, but there's no need to go 250 carries each season. Just get an offense that's going to be very good. Sarkisian, the misdirection stuff, utilizing multiple running backs, we saw it in that Michigan game early in the season. Like, it's some really creative stuff. So I think Sarkisian is going to get the most out of them. Now, their production from a CFF standpoint is not going to be there, not going to be what you want. But this is going to be a big market for them, a big stage. And I'm surprised with the lack of athleticism in the prospect tool for them. But everybody loves a helmet, and when they're playing on the big stage and these teams are performing highly, their offensive line was not great last year, but they literally return everybody, it looks like, from the returning database. So there is that benefit of maybe another year of gelling. I hated it from a CFF standpoint, but I actually can see the benefits from an NFL standpoint of get your touches, don't overuse it, and then be on a big stage to show off your talent.
See, I wanted to include this question because my opinion is that, first of all, they had to be paid a lot to go to Texas. Texas, I'm sure, is one of those teams like Texas Tech that is handing out big checks. But both of these players, their offenses may have more or less revolved. Definitely in the case of Hollywood Smothers, their offense might have been revolved around him at NC State. Same for Arizona State. And you look at what they added, like that's a potentially really explosive offense. It always is with Kenny Dillingham and Raleek Brown being there. I thought that would have been a really good mix with what they've added. And if those offenses revolved around them at Texas and NC State, then it might have elevated their draft profile if we're talking about from a C2C perspective. But both of those guys, if they stayed at their previous programs, both of them would have been RB1s. Both of them would have been top 10 running backs. No?
I think Raleigh Brown showed himself enough to clear over Kyson Brown. And then Smothers, yeah, for sure. He would have been like a second round pick, worst case. I mean, I would have seen him after the big 3 or 4. I think you could convince yourself, because the way he started last year was incredible. Fell off a little bit with some injury and just didn't get back there. But he's probably a top 10 running back if he's at NC State.
Yeah, I agree with you. Raleigh Brown, to me, won the "Where Did He Come From" award last year, because we were talking. I was trying to remember. I remember Kanye Udo. Kanye Udo is the guy that I was like, it's going to be Kanye Udo. Okay, if it's not Kanye Udo, it's going to be Kyson Brown. It's not going to be this former running back / wide receiver / oh, now he's playing running back again, Raleigh Brown. Matthew, I think you owe Raleigh Brown an apology, because you were the one talking about how he's not going to be a running back when he was at USC in the freshman guide. I'm projecting here. That's me. Because I wrote his profile.
I don't remember.
I wrote his profile for the freshman guide, and I said that he wasn't a running back. But all right, Chris, Matthew, thank you for playing the game with you. I'm going to give the victory to Chris. Chris's arguments.
New guy. You got to be nice to the new guy.
That's right. Okay. Just a note here. I am going to be recording team previews Sunday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Didn't get to the last 2 days because I was traveling, but I'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. We're going to cover Arkansas. Somebody asked for Arkansas. If you want me to cover a team, you can let me know in the comments, and drop a like on this video. And that's going to be it for us tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get them rescheduled soon for Chris Kay and Matt Bruening. I'm Felix Sharpe. Good night and good luck.